I'm in Paris and I find out that my mom's caregiver has quit.
Wow.
Now, would she have quit if I was there? Probably. But now I'm thinking, like, what am I supposed to do? And at some point, this guilt can take over your entire life. It truly can. It can just like eat away all the good juju you got in your body. It could just zap it. It can exhaust you and all that kind of stuff. So here I am on vacation in Paris and sick. Oh, too, by the way.
Oh,
and, and,
oh,
and I said to myself, you just have to let this one go.
yeah.
You just have to let it go. Your brother's there. You're going to come home. You're going to figure it out. And my favorite sayings, you know this, things work out for me
They do.
somehow, and God's constantly conspiring in my behalf is one of my other favorite sayings. And my mom's caretaker is gone by the time I get home. And another one has miraculously, like a little angel, stepped in. So
I love
any energy I had expended on feeling guilt and ruining my vacation would have been a total waste
I
of
love
being in the
that.
moment and being happy right here, right now, and soaking up the fact that mom isn't my top priority right this second. And in this second, I'm allowed to be happy and not feel guilty about it.
I love
So,
that.
yes, you know,
I love that your brothers though also step in, and that helps you when you do want to take vacation. Because what I see all the time is that so many people like yourself, they don't have anybody.
I
And
know.
so if they take one moment away or one step to go for a walk or they take a vacation, they're like,
But you know what? That's one of those things. And we just did this little live, we call it a workshop, whatever you want to call it. Doesn't like it's just like a tool, like a little toolbox is really what it really is, a toolbox for caregivers. And there's some things in there that are actual techniques that a person can use to kind of like cut the cord so that you let this go. It's like this like big balloon taking energy all over your body, and you kind of like watch the balloon float into the sky and you cut the cord. That's one of my friends. And just like, bye.
I think we can have
And then
balloons.
and then maybe in a few seconds it could come back, or a few minutes or a few hours, whatever. But you have to keep on letting it go, letting it go. Because sometimes we are not in control. What could I do from Paris for my
Nothing.
mom? Nothing. Nothing.
Nothing.
I mean, I could have called the resident assistant and said, could you please make sure that my mom's being looked on, looked after for the next couple of days until I get back and all that stuff. But my brother had it handled. I mean, sometimes we don't ask for help when we
Right.
need it. And sometimes we've asked and been turned down and we never ask again. And
That's
then we
so
become the martyr. And then we become the martyr, right? And
yeah.
that's not healthy energy either.
Right. No, I agree. And oftentimes guilt really comes from loving the person so much. But the reality is, if we step into that guilty place, and we talked about that in the workshop, right? If we step into that feeling of guilt, then it actually takes so much negative energy in us. It's just like we can't breathe because we're so overwhelmed with it. And then we're no good for our parents anyway because we're annoyed, we're short tempered, we haven't taken care of ourselves, all those things, right? But it
Yeah.
originates, if you really think about it, when you're thinking about guilt and how can I fix it, it originates usually from a place of love because you love that person so deeply. So if you truly love that person so deeply, you need to love yourself equally as deeply, and you need to make sure you're taking care of you so you can have those moments of just where you can breathe when they're so difficult because it's inevitable.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the progression is inevitable,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's going to get worse if you don't get hold of it now.
Well, and the thing is, like my mom is in great shape, but she's going to be around for a little while potentially. She could be around for another. She's 92. She could be one of those centenarians and 102 years old. That would mean literally for me as the caregiver 10 more years. So when I kind of think about that, there's a piece of me that goes like, ah, and then there's another piece
I
of me
love
that
that you're real.
and then there's another piece of me that says, okay, that would be great if she, especially if she's still as lively as she is right now and everything, that would be great. And I also need to pace myself. think of myself as the turtle versus the hare, rather than like trying to be everything for everybody all the time. Like, just take it a little easier, Melinda. I would say that caregiving for me has taught me right now in my life to be a little more calm, to take a deep breath, not expect big, crazy, exciting things or not exciting things or whatever. Just like can you just be present here right now and enjoy this part of your life? Can I just enjoy? Because a lot of people, that as soon as I say my mom's still alive, she's 92, they're like, oh, you're so lucky. Your mom's still alive. How fabulous. And I'm like, sometimes yes, sometimes no. Being totally honest, sometimes yes and sometimes no.
When you say that, how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel so guilty to even have that thought. I got to tell you a little story. So the other day, my brother was in town before we left or whatever. And mom calls me and she's bawling. Because she's ups and downs, highs, ups and downs. That's the way her dementia, whatever, is showing up. And she's like, I just think you kids will be so much happier after I'm dead.
Oh.
So your mom says that to you. I'm like, oh, Mom, why do you even say that? Your brother talks to me. Well, she doesn't hear well. So by the third time you're repeating something to her, you're getting a little agitated yourself. So then that energy comes across as mean or belittling or something. And she thinks that we don't love her anymore,
Yeah.
Because it is more work than we're used to. And we didn't have one of those like super nurturing mommies that took care of us all the time. She was kind of over here doing her thing, so now all of a sudden it's a very different dynamic, in the family and everything. So I'm trying to, like I said, I'm trying to lean into yes, it's great to have a 92-year-old mom who's still pretty healthy. That's a blessing. That's a huge, huge blessing. And someday she'll be gone. Probably her before me, but you never know, but someday she'll be gone. And I want to know that I embraced this love. I embraced this experience as best I could.
Yeah.
I'm not always going to be perfect. You said, you've said this all the time, you got to give yourself a little grace.
You have to give grace. And that's one of the biggest things that I see with family members that are so stressed out, is that they're not giving themselves any grace, and they hold themselves to these standards that nobody could possibly achieve. You know what I mean? And so when you're caregiving, there's so many different things. Every day it's a new adventure, a new difficulty, a new feeling, and it's not going to be the same. Your walk is not the same as someone else's. And so comparison as a caregiver will also cause you even more guilt, more stress.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Sometimes I see these daughters that are like, every day they stop by and have coffee with mom. Every day they're doing this. Or mom's living with them. It's a 24/7 thing, and then I go into shame. Shame on me for having any feelings like I'm feeling, because look at so-and-so. They've got it so much worse. I hate that word, but it's so much more intense. Maybe that's a better way of saying it. Their caregiving is so much more intense than mine. How dare I have a thought of guilt or shame or...
The interesting thing that happened just recently, I think I shared with you, was that someone mentioned to me that they actually had a parent that treated them horrible. And now they have their parent living in their home, and they're not nice to them. The child is being horrific, like yelling at their parent, because they're like, well, they don't understand. I'm like, oh, but they do. And it's just this horrible situation. And I said to her, the guilt that you're going to feel when she's gone is going to be horrific. Whatever she did to you, doing what you're doing to her, yelling at her, and she does it intentionally. She said, that's how I get rid of my stress. I'm like, oh. And so
it's a recipe for disaster, isn't it? Yeah.
The other thing was, even when I was talking to an attorney the other day, he said, will you be an advocate for some of my clients? And I said, for what exactly? He said, well, because some of my clients, their kids, all they care about is not losing what's going to be left of their inheritance. And so they don't want to spend money to take care of their parent, but it's their parents' money. And so he's like, and honestly, it works not just because I want my client to have the best care possible. They're going to be so filled with guilt when their parent dies because money will not satisfy them, but because they're thinking.
You would think there are a lot of very self-centered people in our society these days. I don't know if that's because people have stopped going to church or they moved away from their family. So they've got their own little nuclear life here. And they're like a little satellite, whether it's technology, which has brought us away from communing with each other one-on-one, like human beings. But we've become so, it's a little scary. And I can see that there's this generation, and like you were talking about, where's my money? If mom gets in this really nice assisted living or really nice independent care and she lives another 10 years, boom, there goes my inheritance. Gosh, we're lucky we're not in that situation at all. But there are people who are counting on their parents' money coming to them so that they can live a lifestyle that they never provided for themselves.
One of the things that people feel really guilty about is when they need more care. So you've got the opposite, right? You've got this one group that it's all about I, and then you've got this other group of siblings or, kids or loved ones that, especially if it's their spouses oftentimes, that they just can't care for them anymore. It's just too difficult, and they have to put them in an assisted living, or they have to transition to memory care. The guilt from that is very difficult. And I just want to encourage, if there's anyone listening to this, because I spoke to someone the other day that was really struggling with that because she felt like she wasn't doing the best she could do for them. And it just broke her heart because she physically couldn't do it anymore. And I said, sometimes you have to love them enough to let them go and really get the care they need, because it does become a safety thing for both of you. The individual was hitting and, he's heavy. She couldn't move him. And then he's trying to hit her. It just wasn't a safe environment for either one of them now.
Right.
But you have to recognize that when those feelings come, you have to, again, like you said, let them go and stop and think about them. And why am I feeling this way? Because I love that person dearly. But the reality is, they have to be safe. That's just practical, but difficult, very difficult.
Yeah. I was sitting in the bathroom by myself the other day. Thank goodness. Which you usually are when you're in the bathroom.
Anyway.
So I'm sitting in the bathroom and I'm thinking, why do I feel guilty? Why do I feel guilty? Like, what would it not matter what I'm doing? Is there just something like inside that just feels like it's never enough? I don't know if other people feel that way. I'm kind of wondering, like, if everyone could say, like, I feel guilty because X. When you start thinking of it that way, I feel guilty because I don't spend enough quality time with mom. I didn't take her to the last doctor's appointment, or like, what is the thing that's creating this energy called guilt?
Yeah.
And that's not healthy in your body. Any negative energy, and guilt is a negative energy. I don't care what anybody says. And it's going to manifest into it, like your own illness. A lot of times, I've heard this, you tell me this is true. The caregiver gets more sick sometimes than the person that they're caregiving to.
Absolutely, because they're not sleeping. I just spoke to someone this week. They have not slept in several years, a whole night's sleep at all, because they cannot leave their loved one alone at all. And so they haven't slept a whole night's sleep. They had a caregiver, and then they're struggling right now. We're trying to find them a caregiver. They're unfortunately, because of their financial situation, it's difficult, but they don't want to put them in an assisted living. And so it's just, there's different circumstances. So she's been sick, and then she ends up in the hospital, and then what? then she has nobody to care for them, and they have to go to an assisted living. So it's been really taxing on her, and now she has all these health issues, and you see it all the time, because they don't sleep. The stress, when you have that stress on your body and you have all of the increased cortisol in your body, when
Cortisol, right?
you have stress and that increases, all kinds of things start happening. It affects
Yeah, you
all.
gain weight a lot of times. A lot of people gain
Yep,
weight because of
yep,
cortisol response. I've heard of
yep,
that. I think that.
yeah.
So do you think that people should take a supplement, or do they just need to change their lifestyle?
They need to get some help. They need to take time for themselves. They have to do self-care. Get some family that can help you. Get a friend, get a church, get somebody around you that can support you, to give you, even if it's just a few minutes. But also, some of it is, right, in life, everything is a choice. We have to decide how we want to react, even to the tough stuff. And so, like you said, okay, instead of, when I feel that feeling of guilt or anger or bitterness or all those different feelings that you might be going through, because there's so many of them, just take a deep breath and stop and think about what it is that you're doing positively, so that you're not taking on that guilt, because we're talking about guilt today specifically. But and quit measuring yourself to other people who maybe are not in the same
Stuff it
circumstances.
doesn't do anybody any good. You'll
No.
always find someone whose situation is worse than yours, and somebody's situation who is better than yours. I like to think at the end of this scenario, and we always know that the way it ends, if you stop being a caregiver to your mom, is because she passed. So that we know that that's an eventuality, that there's going to your person that you're caregiving is no longer going to be there, and you want to know that when that happens, that you were there, you did your best, you soak the love up, even sometimes when it's the most difficult thing that you're doing is not pretending, but just holding the space for another person who's diminished at this point, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You are.
I agree. I think it's really important. I think you touched on it. One of the most important things I would say that you touched on today, that I want to remind everyone, is give yourself some grace. Give yourself some grace, and give them some grace, because you can give them grace and give yourself grace. It's going to help you, number one, have less guilt, because you did give them grace and your response was gentle. Your response was loving and kind, versus, because when we respond with that anger and frustration, that has a lot to do with why we feel guilty too. Is, okay, I only had X amount of time with her today, and I was frustrated with her the whole time. So give them grace, give yourself grace, and you know what? Just take a deep breath.
Yeah, deep breath a lot. I go back to one of my other coping mechanisms when I'm feeling guilty, when I'm feeling shame, when I'm feeling all this stuff, is to, like, again, take that deep breath, and then I kind of go into my brain and I kind of go, this is an interesting story. There she is. She's telling that story again. Oh, wow. There she is. I wonder how many times I'm going to hear that one today. Yeah, okay. And the whole time, the story that I've heard now, who knows how many times, I'm going like, yeah, Mom. Oh, yeah. Really? All right. As if I'm like enthusiastic, like I'm hearing it for the first time.
And you know what, though, Melinda?
It's a whole different result inside yourself and outside yourself, too.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. And she's so thrilled because you're hearing her, because she has no concept. She's just told it to you 10 times, and she's just thrilled that she feels heard, because so many seniors do not feel heard. And they have so many really great stories if we listen to them. So
it's so true. It's so true. Yeah. Well, we are blessed.
We are. We're
to
so
have
blessed.
The lives that we have the health that we have the capacity to be caregivers to the people in our lives. And then you also add on to that the professional side of it as well, which is great. There's like lots of different levels of it. And just hoping that the people who are listening, gain some insight, they do something, or they just come and want to hear our voices and know that there's somebody else who's in this with them. So
absolutely,
we encourage everyone to to subscribe. You're not alone, to subscribe and continue to join us and share this with somebody that is also a caregiver who, may just feel like, ooh, I found my tribe, and we're the tribe of women who are, daughters of a certain age who are caregiving to mothers who sometimes appreciate us and sometimes don't, right, honestly.
So join us, pull up a chair, you're strong, you're seen, you're right on time. We laugh, we love, we